was assassinated before the passage of the 1965 Act that the book helped to inspire. But the legislation signed by that pen hanging in my office converted his idea into the law of the land and changed the shape of our country for the better. For me, the book and its lofty ideals are not some abstract history lesson. It's literally real life. My life. My paternal grandfather came to the United States on a ship in 1938. Bernard Greenblatt was a young man who once lived freely in Germany, as did a large number of highly educated and successful Jews. There was a degree of anti-Jewish bias, but it did not impede their lives. Moreover, his father fought in World War I, so their patriotism could not be questioned. Or so he thought. The rise of Hitler changed all that, as anti-Semitism burst out into the open, and the onset of the Nuremberg laws that codified casual prejudice into legislated hate. My grandfather escaped with falsified travel documents, because Jews were not permitted to leave, when he made his way to America from Germany via France. He was registered as a refugee and eventually obtained citizenship. In the ensuing years, he carved out a middle-class life for himself and his family, including my father, on the East Coast. Interestingly, almost 50 years later, my wife and her family came to this country under similar conditions. They fled the oppressive policies of the Islamic Republic of Iran, a theocratic government that came to power via the violent overthrow of the Shah of Iran. Led by Ayatollah Khomeini, the new government exhibited tremendous hostility toward secularism that was complemented by a virulent antipathy toward religious minorities. Despite a 1,000-year presence of Jews in Iran, the regime targeted them for high-profile executions and imposed a wave of new restrictions, such as forcing Jewish girls and women to wear hijabs and to abide by the same Islamic restrictions that they imposed on the general population. My wife and her family escaped with falsified travel documents because, well, Jews were not permitted to emigrate. They fled their homeland via France, eventually making their way to America. They were registered as political refugees and eventually obtained citizenship. In the ensuing years, the family carved out a middle-class life on the West Coast. Interestingly, these stories are far from unique. In fact, there are many echoes if you listen to other stories. You can hear those echoes when you talk to the Punjabi Sikh family that came to America, escaping the terrible pain of partition in post-colonial India. You can hear them when you talk to the Vietnamese families who fled their homeland in the wake of the terrible violence of the eponymous war and its aftermath. You can hear them when you talk to the Venezuelan families who bolted from their country in light of the dictatorial policies of Hugo Chavez and his successors. You can hear them when you talk to the Iraqi and Syrian families who endeavored to escape the catastrophic violence that leveled their countries, mayhem typically wrought by Sunni jihadists in terror organizations like ISIS or Al-Qaeda, or their Shiite counterparts such as Hezbollah, or foreign militias funded by Iran. And you can hear them today at the southern border of the United States, among migrants from Central and South America, facing the tragic separation from their children, often leaving family members behind to escape oppression and to seek opportunity. But whether America served as a refuge to those escaping violence or a haven for those simply seeking a better life, our country traditionally has been an inspiration to others, a place that offered hope to the hopeless and opportunity to the downtrodden. In recent times, however, we have seen an increase in rhetoric across the country that does not promote the ideals of our democracy. Today, we face a global refugee crisis of epic proportions, the largest since World War II. Images and stories of the worst kind of suffering and misery have evoked compassion in many quarters, but also have prompted some to try to shut our borders rather than open them to the most needy among us. It is a stark departure from JFK's vision and from the words of Emma Lazarus, who wrote the poetry on the pedestal of Lady Liberty. This book reminds us that immigration is a cornerstone of our glorious history and truly has enabled the America of our modern age. And there could be no better person to have written these words than President Kennedy. His own life exemplified some of our most cherished values: courage, service, patriotism, and integrity. It reminds us that, to paraphrase Martin Luther King Jr., American history is not an arc that organically angles.